Good, Mike.
Oh, good, thank you.
Oh, this is the
That guy, Joe, now goes by the name of Roman Reigns, and he's a great superstar. And the great thing after talking to Derek last night is that he talked about how this young man that I see on TV every week is one of the finest young men you'll meet in your life. I mean, that's really good when you see these guys that turn out like that. I want to thank y'all for last night. Last night was just a wonderful experience, and I appreciate you guys having me here. I also want to thank Scotty and the crew for this awesome shirt. Thank you. Hey, I like it, because I forgot my shirt. I honestly did. I was on the way here yesterday, and I said, hey, gummit, I brought 4 pair of underwear, but I've got my shirt. So I was going to go up to Walmart and buy a shirt, but you guys saved the day, so I appreciate it. Kevin and Derek, I'm going to have to move this down a little bit. I'm not quite taller. I am 5'9" and 1/2. The average height of the American male is 5'8", so I dwarf above. And little people. This morning we're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen this afternoon, too. I'm not used to giving 2 presentations at one conference. So this is a challenge for me, but I'm going to make it happen. And also, I got a terrible headache this morning after, I only had 2 beers last night. After 34 months in Iraq and smelling all the toxic fumes over there and all the dust and everything, I get these terrible headaches. And last night, right in the middle of watching the 30 for 30, I Hate Christian Laettner, I got this headache, but we're going to make it happen this morning. And we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about, in the Army, we have an acronym for leadership, and those are the Army values, and they are loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Now, what I would like for you ladies and gentlemen to do right now, if you don't mind, if you want to play along, pull out a piece of paper and your pen or your pencil or whatever, and write down those letters one on top of the other. LDRSHIP. Now, how's this thing? Can everybody hear me okay in the back? Okay, I don't like staying in one place for a long time. So I want you guys to think of a word that goes along with leadership for each of those letters. And I'm going to give you about a minute, and then I'm going to have you put your pencil down. But like I said, for the Army, it's loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And you just try to think of a word for each of those. And then as we get to each one, I'm going to ask you if some of you guys and gals would give me some examples of what you came up with.
Would you repeat those letters again?
Yes, sir. Loyalty, L, D, duty, R, respect, S, selfless service, H, honor, I, integrity, and P, for personal courage. Those are what we call the Army values. And you know, growing up, I never had any inclination whatsoever that I was going to join the Army. It just kind of happened. The closest I came to the Army when I was in school, they they sent me a card in the mail, and I filled it out, and they sent me a pair of free socks. And I'm like, okay, that's a start. And then I went to college, and I went to college for 1 quarter. 1 quarter I went to college. And Derek, you brought up the wrestling thing. I've been a wrestling fan I've always known this faith, but my grandparents, they watched it. And I've always watched it my entire life. And I went to college 1 quarter. Wasn't quite ready for college. I took 3 classes. I withdrew from 2 of them and failed the other one. And when I got back my report card, I made a WWF. I thought that was cool, you know. But my mama didn't. She didn't think it was cool at all. But it was shortly after that. I was still working at Kroger, and I was working down there with these people, that great people, good people, but just people that I didn't necessarily want to stay with at Kroger and work with my whole adult life. And I worked there with a guy named Tim, and Tim was this old country boy, never had seen anything, never had been a whole lot of places, but before he worked at Kroger, he was a truck driver. And we were working one night, and I said, Tim, when you drove trucks, where all did you go? He said, man, I went to Birmingham, Atlanta, Savannah, all over the world. I'm like, I don't want to be Tim. A couple nights a week, we would have a Ukrainian floor crew come in there and do their thing. And one of the young ladies on the floor cleaning crew was just a gorgeous young lady. And Tim and I were standing against the wall one night, and we're just observing them cleaning the floor. And I said, Tim, that's a good-looking girl right there. Tim said, yeah, she is, but she don't speak no good English. I said, Tim, neither do you, brother. And we were working the night shift, so it was in the fall, and the Lee County Fair had come to Lee County. That was the big thing. The Lee County Fair came to town, and Tim and I decided to go to the fair before we went into work that night at 11 o'clock. Went to the fair, and Tim's one of these boys, he's not afraid to spend money at the fair. You know, he's one of those guys that spend $40 on a goldfish, be proud of it. He's showing everybody with a dip in his step too, boy. I mean, I'm like, huh. So he's got that. I only spent 20 on my goldfish. A better shot, you know. Good. So Tim gets this great idea of he says, hey, let's ride to Tilton. How many of y'all been on Tilton? How many of y'all will never get on Tilton again? What's the point of it, you know? Because if you've never been on Tilton, you get in a little cage thing, and it's round, and you get against the wall, and it spins around so darn fast, the floor drops, and you're stuck to the wall. You can't move for nothing. And we're on that thing, and I'm stuck against the side of the wall, and I just dug. I get finally able to turn my head. I look over at Tim, and he's stuck. And then I look, and he got that poor goldfish stuck on the side of the bag. So I didn't want that to be my life. I didn't want to grow up to be Tim. I didn't want to be Tim. So joining the Army was the best decision I ever made in my life. And we call the values that I mentioned the Army values, but the ones that I mentioned, you know, they can be applied to every single walk of life, every profession that there is. But does anybody have any examples besides loyalty? Did anybody come up with anything? Well, what you got, War Eagle?
Love.
Love, and that's a great one. You talking about Mr. Malcolm there. Everybody loves it, and I love you. I've only met you last night, but I love the way you dress. I mean, you are snazzy, you know. And you got the matching socks on this morning and everything. But love, and I can feel the love too. You talk about the love that you feel in here. Loyalty. I want to talk about a guy that I call Grandpa. He's not my grandpa, but I call him Grandpa. His name is Earl Sumner. He just turned 90 years old. And he's a good friend of mine. He was in the Navy in World War II. And he's been married now for 64 years. Okay. He's been married now for 64 years. He's a great guy. And when he was 7 years old, he was working at his family farm, and they had a little sawmill. And he cut off his finger. At 7 years old, he cut off a finger. And it fell down in the sawdust. And they couldn't find it, and they kept trying to find it. And about 2 days later, they saw a chicken running around with the finger in his mouth. And he and his brothers, they chased that chicken around for about 3 hours, and they never could catch that chicken. About 2 days later, they were walking around and they found that finger laying on the ground, so they picked up that finger and they gave it to their mama, a 5-day-old finger. And the mama put it in a jar of alcohol. And she saved it above the stove next to the can of Crisco. And she told him, Earl, she said, Earl, when I die, if you don't mind, if you don't want it, will you put that finger in my casket? He said, Mama, I don't mind at all. But before she died, the house got hit by lightning, and it burned up the whole house, including the finger. Now that story don't have anything to do with loyalty whatsoever. But that's my friend Earl. And Earl is a great guy, but he is loyal because he served in the Navy. Then he went on to serve in the National Guard for another 36 years. So he was loyal to his country. And now he's been married for over 60 years. And for the last 4 years, his wife of over 60 years has been in a nursing home with Alzheimer's. And she doesn't know him from anybody in this world. But he goes to visit her every single day from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Every single day. Now that's loyalty right there. That's what we all need in our life right there. And if we're loyal, as we say in leadership, it's not just being a leader to the people that you work with. It's a leader of your family. It's a leader at church. It's a leader in your community. But having that kind of loyalty, when your wife doesn't know you from the staff at the nursing home, yet you still go there every single day, that's the kind of loyalty that we need to strive for every single day. And I've been married now for almost a year. March 31st will be a year. And I've learned from a lot of people, they say that the key to a long and happy and healthy marriage is to just say, yes, dear. Always agree with your wife. Yes, dear. And I've learned that, and it's worked well so far. Yes, dear. Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. You got it. How high? You know, that's... And I never say no. I never say no to my wife. I never say no to my wife except for one time. Last year, we were in Washington, D.C., and there we are on Pennsylvania Avenue, walking down the street, and she said, Jody, I need you to carry my purse. And I said, no, absolutely not. I'm an Army guy, 22 years. I'm a Major United States Army Reserves. I am no way on this earth. I will not, I repeat, I will not carry your purse for very long. 3 blocks and I gave it back to her. I told you, but it's great. But it's learning. I love my wife, so I want to make her happy. And now I got an 8-year-old daughter, and that is so challenging. Leadership, man. My first job as officer in the Army was the platoon leader of 104, the 3rd largest platoon in the entire United States Army, and I trained them up and deployed them to Iraq. And let me tell you, that pales into comparison to trying to get an 8-year-old ready for school every morning. I mean, that is some hard stuff every day. But going from just me and a dog to me, a dog, a wife, a daughter, 4 more dogs, and 2 horses. I mean, it's a challenge every single day. But just trying to learn, because I just don't know, because women are just different. But I love them. So you do what you got to do. When we first got married, she bought this chair, an old antique chair somewhere, and we're about to watch a movie, and I pull this chair away from the wall, and I go to sit, and she said, Jody, stop. She said, that chair is not for sitting in. I said, it's a chair. That's exactly what it's for. And my 8-year-old, 7-year-old at the time, she said, yeah, Jody, that chair is just for looking at. So they indoctrinate them so early. So I thought I was going to be a wise guy. I pulled out my little high-speed Auburn car here, and I said, well, you see this other car there? She said, yeah. I said, well, it's not for using. It's just for looking at. He said, well, you see that couch over there? I said, yeah. She said, it's for using. And you're using it tonight. So, Judge, I learned early on, that was the first week of marriage right there. I learned how to do things, so that's what you do right there. You gotta love, let me pull out my little cheat sheets here. I don't usually do cheat sheets, but I just want to make it happen right. Yesterday, Terry was talking about leading from the front, leading for the rear, whatever. And I think the whole point of that discussion was is that as they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I mean, there is no right or wrong way. Leadership comes in all shapes and sizes. I mean, look at Nick Saban. He's a pretty good leader. I mean, I don't care much for him, but he does a lot of good things. So after the loyalty in the Army values, we have duty for the Army. Anybody else have another word? Yes, sir, Ms. Maurer.
Dedication.
Dedication. Absolutely. How does that work when you obviously with 45 years in this business, you're obviously dedicated to the business, your family, to your clients, Jesus, others, and you. So being dedicated. Anybody else have anything? Duration. Absolutely. You got to know where you're going, right? Anybody else? Discipline. Absolutely. Yes, sir. You got to be dependable. So there's a lot of them there. I want to talk about a guy. I said we were up in Washington last year. Last year, for me, let me tell you, it was an incredible year. It was an absolutely incredible year. January, I got to open for Foxworthy for the first time. January, I went to Hawaii for 13 days. March, I got engaged. March 26th, I got engaged. March 31st was when I got married. I like to do things fast, you know. My mama was in labor with my brother for 23 hours, me 15 minutes. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to make it happen, man. You know, let's do this thing. But so I got to do that. In May, I got to open for Foxworthy again. August, I opened up for the Duck Dynasty guys. But probably the highlight, even above my marriage, and I can say that because she's not here, because anybody can get married, you know, some people a whole lot of times. I got invited by a friend of mine, a guy named Command Sergeant Major Benny Atkins. He was awarded the Medal of Honor in September, and I got invited to go to the White House. And that was absolutely the highlight of, one of the highlights of my life. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions in Vietnam in 1966. This guy is about this tall, and he walks on a cane, but he was an incredible soldier, an incredible hero. He was Special Forces, and this little man who, when he left the Army in '78, I think, he opened up an accounting practice in the Opelika-Auburn area, and you never would have known what he did until President Obama read his accolades. And to know that this man at the time, Sergeant First Class, all by himself, he single-handedly took out between 135 to 175 Viet Cong, and while tending to 5 of his fellow soldiers in a foxhole, a battle that lasted for 38 hours. And then, grace of God, War Eagle, not making this up, a tiger came and chased off the rest of the bad guys, and they were able to escape at that point. But being able to go up there with him, that guy, he exemplifies what duty is all about. Absolutely. And last year around Christmas, I loaded up a church van with Sergeant Major, my wife, 4 World War II veterans, and Miss America 2013, who happens to be from Opelika. And we went to the Shakespeare Festival in Montgomery to see A Christmas Carol. And I'm in there with all these amazing World War II heroes, and then Sergeant Major Atkins from Vietnam. And we're just absorbing all this knowledge and information from these great heroes, just listening to them, not saying a word till it was time. And we finally got to the point where I asked them, I said, if y'all could do anything differently, what would you do? And this is after they'd been talking. One of the guys was a pilot for the Navy in World War II, and Benny, Special Forces, paratrooper, all this stuff, Sergeant Major. And he's like, you know, I don't know why you want to fly a plane when you can jump out of one, you know. He's just always so proud of his service as a paratrooper, a Special Forces guy. And all these guys, they were talking about what they had done, and he was like, but I don't know why, you know, when you can jump out of a plane. So I finally asked the guys, I said, if there's anything you could do different with your service, your duty to our nation, what would you have done differently? A couple of them said, well, I would have stayed in longer. One of them said I would have gone to officer candidate school. And each time Benny would chime in with something about being in Special Forces and jumping out of planes, and he was so proud of his duty. And we got through all 4 of the World War II veterans. We finally got to Benny. He was the last one. Sergeant Major was the last one. I said, Benny, how about you? What would you have done differently? And there he is on his cane. He said, well, I probably wouldn't have jumped out of so many airplanes. But you got to respect his honesty on that. Another D that I like to talk about is decision making. Because that is so important, because every decision we make today has consequences for tomorrow. I'm going to take you back to the summer of 1991, but before I went to the Army, Opelika, Alabama. It was a hot summer, about 100 degrees. I was coming home from Kroger one night, and I took the long way, and I hit something, and I hit it pretty good, and I pulled over to look to see what it was. I was right by a pond, and I pulled over, and I looked, and it was a beaver about this big. And I was 19 years old, and I thought that was cool, because it was a big old beaver, a gigantic thing. So it was cool. So I went home, and there were some guys over at my house, and they were doing what 19-year-olds do. They were drinking some adult beverages, and I started telling them about that beaver that I hit. So one of them had this great idea. He said, "Let's go get it." I said, "That sounds like a great idea." So I went and I got a trash bag from under the sink, and I put it in the 87 Ford Taurus, and I headed back out by that lake, and I got that trash bag, and I picked it up, and it moved a little bit, so I moved a whole lot. And I finally wrapped it up, and I put it in the trunk, and I take it to the house, and a bunch of 19, 20-year-old boys, they're on the front porch, and this, by the time now the beaver's dead, and one of the rednecks pulls out his knife, and he proved how sharp his knife was, because he had no hair on his forearm. That's how they prove. Hey, look how sharp his knife is. And that's how they do it if you don't know. See, this anybody with a smooth forearm, don't mess with it. That means they got a sharp knife in their pocket. And look at Keith's arms. So we were sitting there playing with that thing, and then we said, you know what? Let's get this thing mounted. Because I told you last night about my Uncle Kerwood, the taxidermist. And I said, you know what, that's a great idea. I got an uncle who's a taxidermist. Like I said, it was a summer 91, 100 degrees outside. So we put that thing in a cooler. And you know what, I said, I'm going to take it to my Uncle Kerwood tomorrow. All right, well, about 2 weeks later, I see that cooler sitting there on the porch. And apparently it had a good seal to it, because nothing leaked out of it or anything. And I went to open up that dadgum cooler. And when I did, it was like the reverse of Hiroshima. I opened it up, and this terrible, awful smell just blew out at about 1,000 miles. My hair looked like Keith's. It just came all at me, and it was the worst, awful smell I've ever smelled in my life. And it looked like Captain Caveman there, because he had all done got swollen up. And I said, well, I got to get rid of this thing. So I put it in the back of the Taurus, still in the cooler. And I'm going to drive out to the country as fast as I can, so I can just throw this whole thing on the side of the road. So I got it there in the back of the trunk, and I'm going around a curve on Oak Fiery Road out in Opelika, and a dog runs out in front of me, and I had to slam on the brakes. And when I did, it's as if it happened in slow motion. I could see it coming from the back. This fog, this awful, worst smell in the history of mankind, coming, and I could see it coming over the back seat, and I could see it in my rear view mirror, and I just started crying. And I'm not lying, I threw up. It was so bad. I threw just projectile, and I turned on the windshield wipers, and that didn't do a bit of good, because it was on the outside. It's the true story. So I just slammed on my brakes as fast as I could, and I jumped out of that car like there were 3 rattlesnakes in there.
And I popped the trunk, and I'm just walking around like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And I went over there, and I looked in the trunk, and he was halfway spilled out, and I got my tire tool trying to scoop him back in there. It didn't work. So I'm just thinking, I'm like, that was a terrible decision. And finally I said, I'm just going to grab this thing and throw it. I'm just going to get it out of the car the best I can. So I reached down there, I grabbed that joker's tail, and it came off like a 2-week banana. So I'm sitting there with 2-week-old dead beaver skin in my hand. And I had a noise that come out. My stutter was cured for 2 minutes. This is in my hand, I just get rid of it. And then I'm just standing there, and again, I'm crying, I don't know what to do. I'm thinking, what a terrible decision I made 2 weeks ago. I had no idea it was going to lead to this. And this guy comes by in a truck, Alabama fan, Roll Tide sticker on the back, and he pulls over, asks if he could help me, and I told him what happened. He said, been there, done that. Really? Done that? Really? Well, I said, can you help a brother out? And what can we do? And he said, I tell you what, if you let me have that cooler, I get it for you. And as far as I know, he still has that cooler. But that was a terrible decision, you know. I had no idea that awful decision that 19-year-old Jody Fuller made 2 weeks later was going to lead to that. But that's what it led to, you know. I always have to consider every decision that you make. So that is for D. Now for R, for the Army value, we have respect. Anybody else have anything? Yes, sir, Ms. Meyer.
Responsibility.
Responsibility. Absolutely, absolutely. That's a key one right there. Anybody else have anything?
Relationships.
Relationships. That is so key, especially what you guys do. But in leadership across the board, that's what it's all about. Relationships. It's about knowing your people. When I had 104 in my platoon, I knew pretty much the story of everybody in my platoon, because it's so important to know your people. You have to know what makes them tick. You have to be able to see when something's wrong with them, so you can check them out and make sure that they're okay. I had one of my soldiers was named Chris Mazur. He was from Montana. And he was standing out next to his Humvee one day. This is on our first tour in Iraq. And you know, when you see a soldier by himself, especially in a deployed environment, you just want to check on them, make sure they're doing okay. And he's standing next to his Humvee, and I walk over there and I said, Maze, how you doing, man? Everything okay? You good? How's your family? Everybody okay? And we're talking. He said, yeah. And we finally run out of things to talk about. So being from the South, I start talking about the weather. You know, 128 degrees, really hot over there. And I look up at that sun, and I said, you know, Maze, I said, that's about the hottest sun I have ever seen. And he said, yes, sir. It almost looks like it's on fire. Almost. So there are dumb people living in Montana. I mean, they're all over the place. But another D. Jury duty, right? Hey, we got on jury duty today. And you absolutely, everybody, thank God, I have not been called to it yet, because that's our civic duty to do it. But you know, if my time comes, my integrity will come into play, because I might tell them a lie or two, you know, just to get out of it, because that's not something I care to do, you know, to be honest with you. So we got duty. We talked about decision making, and another one which is key, and I see it in this room, and I think it's beautiful, is the diversity that we have in this group here. You don't see that in every group, and it's unfortunate. A lot of great diversity in this group here. And that's one of the things that makes our Army so great, is its diversity in the leadership and the thought, people themselves, where they come from, all of their backgrounds. And this is a true story. I was at OCS at Fort Benning, Georgia. I've said that a few times. I'm proud of that. And we were having a class that day on diversity. And we were just telling our stories about where we came from or whatever, our background. I told them that I was very proud of where I came from, because my high school in Opelika was half white and half black. And that's good, because a lot of schools aren't like that, you know, so that was really great. And anybody in here from Texas? I know Austin's back there. Well, let me tell you, you know Texans are proud. Texans are proud, and they'll poke that chest out. And I told them about my school being half white and half black. This guy from Texas, he jumped up, he poked his chest out. I said, yeah, well, my high school in Texas was half white, half black, and half Mexican. Did they teach math in this diverse school? So that's kind of important too, you know. But diversity, it is just a wonderful thing, a wonderful thing. So that's with the D's. So with LDR, we said respect, and we said responsibility, we said relationships, all this stuff, and everything we said. I mean, there's so many words that we can use. There's so many ways to look at leadership and different styles of leadership. So S, selfless service, is what we have for the Army. Anybody else have anything for S? Ms. Maurer?
Sincerity.
Sincerity. Explain that. Just being honest with what you do, right?
Being true to yourself.
Being true to yourself. Absolutely. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Self-esteem.
Self-esteem. That's right. Absolutely. Have to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect anybody else to, right? You know, so yes, sir. Sacrifice. Absolutely. Put yourself, Jesus, others, yourself. When you put yourself third, you're sacrificing, but it's a great thing to be able to sacrifice for others. Absolutely. Those are great. Anybody else have anything? Yes, sir. Sharing. Absolutely. 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 We get on our packages when we deploy. You know, I shared my flour with other people, you know. But you have to do that kind of stuff, because especially like when we're in a deployed environment. I was blessed. I got something almost every single day. Blessed. But there are others who got absolutely nothing. But as a team, we looked out for each other and we shared. And it doesn't matter if you're a private. We tell everybody, if you're the second newest private in the Army, you're a leader, because there's somebody looking up to you. So sharing, that's an excellent point. Yes, sir.
Support.
Support. Absolutely. Absolutely. Explain that a little bit.
Well, just, I mean, especially from the roles of management, I mean, you're there to support your agents.
Absolutely.
When it goes to your family, you're there to support your family, every aspect of your life. If you're leading, you're supporting.
Absolutely. 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 Yes, sir.
Stuttering?
Stuttering. Absolutely. Let me tell you what. No, but you know what? You know what? When I first started doing comedy, it was just straight comedy. I wasn't trying to make a difference in anybody's life. I was just talking, telling stories, saying some words that I no longer use, just trying to get a laugh. But then people would come up to me afterwards and say, you know what, that was inspiring. You know, I talked about going to the drive-through window. So then, like, you know, I got a brother who stutters or a cousin who stutters, and I never knew about the challenges, you know, asking a girl out, job interviews, whatever. I mean, so it turned into that, and that's kind of how everything for me, the whole leadership thing got started. Because just being, now I'll get to it after a while, but position, just because you're in a leadership position, that don't make you a leader. There are people that I serve with in the Army that are in leadership positions that I wouldn't follow to the bathroom. You know, but there are other people that aren't necessarily in leadership positions that I fall on a grenade for. You know, so it's not a position. So you know, does anybody else have anything?
Surviving.
Surviving. You got to survive it. We're going to go through some hard times. Surviving. Selfless service. Any of you guys, I know, Kevin, you played at Arizona? Well, you may know Pat Tillman.
Younger than I am.
Yeah, he came, you graduated, what, early 90s?
Yeah.
He came in the late, I think, 97, 98 time frame.
Yeah.
Do y'all know the story of Pat Tillman? Pat Tillman, if you don't know the story of Pat Tillman, this guy was an all-pro for the Arizona Cardinals. 9/11 hit. He had this calling to serve in the military because his family had served, his grandfather had served, and he turned down, I think, a 3-year, multi-million-dollar contract with the Rams to go and serve, and he became a Ranger. And I mean, how many of us would give up millions and millions of dollars to go get paid as an E4 in the United States Army? A lot of military folks there. That's not a whole lot of money. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting Pat Tillman in Georgia. You military guys know that when you're about halfway through basic training, you go back and you get dressed, you get fitted for your dress uniform, because so many people lose weight and get in shape during basic training. Well, because I was a prior service enlisted guy, I didn't have to go through all the crazy nonsense. So I was able to go get my issue and stuff on my own with another group of prior service guys, and we're sitting there talking to this lady, and we're talking about football because we had watched some football, and she asked if you know who Pat Tillman is. I said, yeah, I know who Pat Tillman is. She said, well, he just came through. He's right around the corner. So I went over there, and the Cardinals had played the Seahawks that day, and I told him that the Cardinals got beat. But I was wrong. The Cardinals won. So the only time I made this American hero, I accidentally told him a lie. So that's not a good thing. But I got to meet him, and he was there with his brother. They were there together, and that was just a great honor to meet him. And then when he lost his life in April of 04 due to some unfortunate circumstances, that was just a heavy blow to all of us, because, as I said, how many, I served for 22 years, a lot of people here served for a long time. Honestly, how many of us would give up millions and millions of dollars to go serve? That's selfless service if I've ever heard it in my entire life. I mean, it's hard to beat that there. So Pat Tillman, and I did I've done several overseas comedy tours with Armed Forces Entertainment, and I was in, not Kandahar, somewhere in Afghanistan, and they have a USO building named after Pat Tillman. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing, pretty cool thing there. So I think we got the D's and the R's out of the way. Now, respect, there is one thing, because when I was driving over here, I was trying to think about what I was going to be talking about for each letter. And came over here yesterday morning, Highway 80 between Montgomery and Cuba, Alabama, and driving between Montgomery and Selma. There was a group still marching from Selma to Montgomery. In the Army, we call that the stragglers, I guess, because that was 2 weeks ago. No, I guess it was a different group of folks. But you think about that, the respect you have for the folks that made that march not only 50 years ago, but those who made that march 2 weeks ago. Because if you've ever driven that stretch of highway, that's a terrible stretch of highway to drive, much less walk in your Sunday shoes. So you got to have respect for anybody that's willing to do that kind of stuff there. So S's, selfless service, and we covered the S's. Now another one that I want to touch on just for a minute is stress. If you're a leader of 1 or 100 or 1,000, you're going to have stress. If you have one person that depends on you, you're going to have stress. So you have to learn to deal with it in different ways. So I don't have an answer for that. Mike Newman, he likes to deal with his stress with golf. But I got a feeling that adds a whole lot more stress, doesn't it? But, you know, each person is important because you're going to have stress. It's going to build up. You got to find a way. I know so many of you guys in here are involved in church. That's a great way to help with the stress there. So that's key. Don't let it build up. Find a way to deal with that stress. So we've done loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service. Then for H, for the Army values, we have honor. Honor. Anybody else have anything for H? Yes, sir.
Humility.
Humility. That's on my list too. Sound like Johnny Gilder, didn't it? My. So good tonight. My. Saw him in concert, him and Keith Sweat at Garrett Coliseum in Montgomery. 1991 to 1992. Mr. Mallory, explain humility. How does that help you with leadership?
I think as far as a leader, you cannot take yourself too seriously. You have to put yourself in the position of those you're trying to lead.
Yes, sir.
That's what I was thinking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't take yourself too serious. And that's been my leadership style. You can tell I don't take myself too seriously because you have to go with your strengths. You have to go with your strengths. You guys and gals, please write this down. Write it down. VIA, character strengths. And when you get a chance, Google that. And I'm a master resilience trainer for the Army, and that's one of the things we had to take was this little survey. It's 120 or 240 very quick, simple questions that they ask you. It takes like 15 minutes, and then it spits out your top 24 character traits. And we all have these 24 character traits. It's just they rank them from 1 through 24. And we all have it. And my number one, I thought, well, of course, it's going to be humor. That's got to be my number one character trait. And it was like number 8. My number one character trait was gratitude. Gratitude. Because I've always been thankful for everything that anybody's ever done for me. I was thankful for my 104 soldiers that I had on that first deployment. I was thankful for the people that have gotten me where I am today. I'm thankful for Keith reaching out to Scotty and providing me this opportunity to be here today. We have to be grateful to the people that get us where we are. You know, we have to be thankful for those that we lead. So you have to be true to yourself. You have to be humble. You can't take yourself too seriously. You have to realize what your strengths are. Yeah, so being humble. And Sergeant Major Benny Atkins, that's what he says every time. He gets all these accolades. He's in New York right now. He's every week he's going somewhere, and every day he says how humble he is. There's only 79 living Medal of Honor recipients. He says every day how humble he is. So let's see where we're at here. So I talked about the stress. Then we're on H. I've got honor, humor, humility, hope. You got to have hope when you're down on your luck. You're going through trials and tribulations. You got to have hope. because you know if you work hard, it's going to be hard to get through sometimes, but you maintain that hope and everything's going to be okay. Especially when you're not afraid of another H word, which is help. As a leader, never take yourself too seriously. Never think you're above asking for help. We all need help. A lot of brand new lieutenants, and the people out here can attest to it, they come into the Army and they're coming out of ROTC or West Point, and they think they're going to take over the Army. They think they're going to run the world, and they're in for a rude awakening until they learn to ask for help for those NCOs, those sergeants that have been around for a long time. And when you learn to ask for help, it makes your world a whole lot easier. I wasn't afraid to ask for help from mine, and I was prior service. I'm here today, grateful to be here, but I'm here today because I was not afraid to ask for help. I needed some money. When it was just me, I was fine. It was me and a dog. I had all the money I needed. I was eating high-dollar meals every night. I was good to go. Then you throw a wife, a kid, and 4 more dogs in there. You start, but I'm not the kind of guy that's going to come up and say, hey, can you loan me some money? But I said, I got a service. I reached out to my friends asking for help. I went to Trip and Keith, and I said, listen, guys, I'm not here to ask you for any money, but I'm asking for help. If you have some contacts, can you please reach out to them? Because I need to work. I need to help. I need the help, and I need to work for my family. And I reached out, and people were so willing to help because I was honest. I wasn't blowing smoke. I needed help. And as leaders, we cannot be afraid to ask for help, because I can tell you this, we can learn from everybody. 45 years in the business. Is there anybody in here that's been in the business for less than a month or less than a year? Anybody? So you've been less than a year. I guarantee you, he can help you and you can help him. You probably know how to work a smartphone a whole lot better than I'm going to go out on a limb, But we can all help each other. Never be afraid to help. Never be afraid to ask for help. And never be afraid to offer your help. So I think help is very key. You have to swallow your pride sometimes. So we're almost there. We've heard this. Derek, you've talked about it a lot. And everybody, for the Army, the I is integrity. Integrity. Yes, sir.
Initiative.
Initiative. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to take initiative. You have to make it happen. Innovate. Absolutely. Explain that. Come up with your own way, right? Make it happen. Make it happen. You got to make it happen.
Investment.
Investment. Invest in who or what?
Other people, yourself.
Yes, sir.
Your own goals and helping others achieve theirs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Inspiration.
Inspiration. Explain that.
Well, you got to inspire others.
Absolutely. Influence.
I should say one that plays off of help is interdependent, which is a mutual dependency, meaning you're not so dependent that you can't do something yourself, but you're not so independent that you don't need help from someone to see you help you do it.
Absolutely.
So interdependent.
Absolutely. I like that. I like that a lot. Influence. You talk about that a lot. Icing. Influence, bear, and example. Anybody else have any other?
Insight.
Insight. Explain that, Keith Little.
Just be able to look into things, and not distort your vision. Be able to look what's inside and see what's going on, so you don't miss the big picture.
Absolutely.
That's the way I see insight. I think great leaders need to have good insight.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Intensive.
Intensity. Explain that, Mr. Rose.
If you're not intense and you don't show people that when it's time to work, you have to have the passion to work.
Yeah.
They're not going to follow them at the same time.
Yeah.
They're going to do what they say.
Absolutely. Intense. Also, you just have to love what you're doing. Be intense about it. Absolutely. Integrity. To me, integrity, the Army nailed it on that one. Tell a quick story. We don't, I kind of hesitate to tell this, but I feel like it's all going to be me, but this is something that where I really, I won't say I came to a crossroad, but it's one of those moments where you realize that you do have integrity. And now, like you said, Kevin, I make mistakes every day. I'm not perfect. I mean, my goodness, ask my wife. I make a lot of mistakes. I thought I was okay till I got married. I don't do nothing right anymore. But my first 2 deployments, I was put in for the Bronze Star by my company commander and my battalion commander. They knew what I did. They appreciated what I did. They knew that I led convoys every day. They knew that we got blown up. They knew that we lost 2 soldiers, April 4th and April 7th of 2004 from my platoon. They knew what we had been through. They knew what we had done. And they put me in for the Bronze Star. Each time, first 2 deployments, it was downgraded by the brigade commander who didn't know me from Adam's house cat. He had no idea what I did. He was just able to read the bullets on the evaluation or on the award. And each time it was downgraded. That's fine, you know, I'm like, that's just the way it worked out, and that's okay. But it was kind of upsetting because a lot of you guys know it's unfortunate. Awards don't mean what they used to mean. They give out awards, sometimes units give them out like candy. You know, people who never leave the base, and they get these high awards, and other people, they do other things where you think perhaps they may or may not be more deserving of some of those awards. Well, on my first deployment, they gave out Bronze Stars to a certain level, depending on your pay grade, and then everybody else, every single person, whether you had been there for 12 months or 2 months, at that time they were still sending people over through the 10th month of the deployment, whether you were there for a year or 2 months. If you got an Article 15, we had a guy who went AWOL and came back. They gave us all Army Combination Medal. They gave us all that. So that was kind of a kick in the gut that it was downgraded from a Bronze Star to an ARCOM with all these other people. But that's the way it works. Next deployment, again, put in for the Bronze Star by my commander and my battalion commander, knocked down to an ARCOM again. No, this time it was knocked down to a Meritorious Service Medal. And somehow, even at the end of that deployment, Bronze Star Medal wound up on my DD Form 214. That's the form that's got all your pertinent information on it. And if it's on the 214, it's ironclad. I mean, it's on there, you got it, and nobody can ever argue. They can't say you didn't earn that, because it's on that 214. And I can have that for the rest of my life. And I got the Bronze Star. But I didn't have the Bronze Star, but it was on my 214. And it stayed on there for a year. I never wore the medal. I never claimed the medal. I never told anybody I had the medal, because I didn't have the medal. But it was on my 214. And I wound up having a third deployment, so I could have said I got it from any of those deployments, and nobody ever would have known. But after that year, I went to my unit, and I wasn't trying to keep it on, I just kept putting it off. Again, I never claimed it. But I knew that I may have earned that on my first 2 deployments. But somebody hiring me said, nah, he doesn't have enough rank, he shouldn't have that. But finally, I went to my unit and I said, y'all need to take this off. I didn't earn this. And that's when the integrity we say in the Army is doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Because it's easy to do the right thing when all eyes are on you. Like, watch me. I'm going to pick up this trash here, and everybody's going to watch me think I'm a Boy Scout. You know, but if you pick it up when nobody's watching, that says something about you. So that's when I knew, I'm not ashamed to say, I'm not bragging, but I'm a man of integrity. I make a lot of mistakes, but I believe every person in this room just exude integrity. And you have to be in leadership, because when you lose your integrity, we've all said it, and I think you said it good, it takes a lifetime to build up that integrity. It takes a minute to lose it, and you may never get it back. So I think the most important thing in leadership is integrity. Amen. So P, we're on the final one. For P, the Army has personal courage. Anybody else have anything for P? Yes, sir.
Persistency.
Persistence, absolutely.
This business, you gotta have persistency. Every day, every hour, every minute.
Was that you saying yesterday that you go see 10 people, 8 of them are going to say no?
Yeah, sometimes you get at the door and they already know. I was thinking about it. I want to redo it. I said, man, I drove and I just go and I just clean my food, go inside with my bag. They're all gonna say no. I just go in there. So you gotta have persistency, especially when you bring in new people and some of the people that are coming in, they're thinking it's gonna be perfect picture. You gotta go in there and they're gonna give you a better check, and then they realize this piece is an art. You know, literally it's an art. So you gotta go. You have to wear out the resistance. You know, and you have to be persistent at it. I mean, constantly. Because they say, oh, I already got everything planned. And how about this area? How about this area? You got a persistency.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just got to have it. You have to have it. So,
Anybody else have anything? Yes or no?
Passion.
Passion. Got a passion for what you do, no doubt about it. Absolutely. Yes, sir?
Preparation.
Preparation. Preparation, absolutely. You have to be prepared.
Perseverance.
Perseverance. Perseverance. Yes, sir?
Practice.
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 We're talking about practice. Absolutely. You have to have all that. Anybody else have anything?
Positivity.
Positivity. That's on my list too. You have to be positive. You have to think positive. Of my 3 stories I have published in Chicken and Soup for the Soul, one of them is called, one of the books is called Think Positive for Kids. And the story that I have in there is about my stuttering. It's called Embracing Your Uniqueness. You have to be positive. You have to be positive about your life, who you are, what you do. You know, and that positivity radiates to those around you, and they see how you act. They see how you react, especially to adverse situations. I mentioned a moment ago that on April 4th we lost 2 of our soldiers. April 4th, 2004. One was killed instantly. The other died 3 days later. And we thought she was going to be okay, but she didn't make it either. And I was the platoon leader, and I was just being me. But I cared about people. I cared about them. I influenced them. I tried to influence them. I cared about them. I tried to lead by example. And that happened in 2004. And 5 years later on Facebook, I got a message from one of my soldiers who was no longer in the military. I was in the National Guard at this point, no longer in the military. So this guy had 0 reason whatsoever to send me a message to tell me this. But he told me, he said, you got us through that time with your positivity. He said, you were our rock, because I cared for them and I let them mourn, because I mourn too. But we still had a mission to accomplish, because we were logisticians, we were supply guys, and people all around the Mosul area, they depended on us to get the food, the water, the repair parts, the whatever. They depended on us, so we still had a mission. And getting back to the P, the positivity, I was scared too. I didn't want to die. you know, but I had to have that personal courage, and that's what it takes as a leader. Having courage doesn't mean you're not scared, doesn't mean you don't have the fear, because if you're not scared, if you don't have fear, then it's not courageous at all, you're just doing it. You know, I don't have the fear to walk out that door right there. It's not courageous to walk out that door, but if there's some bad guys out there, then it's courageous. You're facing your fears. It's so important to show that personal courage, because that will that shows people, they always have their eyes on you, and especially when you're going through the tough times, because it's easy to be positive when things are going right. So positivity, that's a key one. That is so key. That's up there with integrity right there as far as I'm concerned. Because nobody likes a negative leader. Anybody else have anything for Pete?
Planning and presence.
Sir? Who said that?
Oh, both of us. Planning and presence.
Planning and presence.
You have to be able to plan when you're going to lead,
Yes, sir.
and you have to have a presence. You can't be a ghost in an organization. There's no presence, there's nothing.
We have a saying in the Army and military, I'm sure everybody's heard it, and I won't say anything ugly, but it's something about piss poor planning. And, you know, that's a P word, that's a lot of P's there. Yeah. It does not constitute an emergency on my part, you know, so planning is so important in everything we do. It's important, and people know when you're planning. They know when you're well organized, and they see that. Punctuality, that's a big one there. Think of the people like Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, these great leaders, these great quarterbacks that I mean, you always hear they're the first one in the building, they're the last one to leave, you know, that punctuality, being there on time, because they know that your subordinates and your peers know, well, you know, if he or she is there early, you know, or if he or she is there late, and I can be late, you know, it doesn't matter. But when you're punctual, that's a big thing there. And I think another one is for P is patience. You got to be patient. Like I said, I like to make it happen like you do, Keith, but sometimes you got to be patient. Just let things play out. Where's my young 18-year-old friend? Where's that? Right there. You talked about maybe one day you might want to join the military, but right now you're being patient. You're waiting on God's plan to see what He has for you, and you may come to work for Scotty, you know, but you're 18, you've got time, you know, you're going to be patient. Now, I think, and I'm about to wrap this up here as I tell my final story, time is running out. P, for me, thank the Lord, prayer. And as Scotty said, everybody doesn't have to be Christian, everybody doesn't have to be religious, but to me, prayer has gotten me through so much in my life. I wouldn't be anyone or anywhere without prayer. I've had some tough goes in my life, some tough times, and I'll tell you, when I graduated college, August 3rd, 2001, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had quit my job at Kroger in March of that year because I had enough money in the bank to last me through graduation, and then I could just spend all that time looking for a job, and I'd be fine. I'd be good to go. That was in March. I quit the job at Kroger. And I thought about this hard yesterday when I was driving on I-85 from Opelika down to Montgomery, because I went to school at Auburn University at Montgomery. And I would make that drive every day. And that summer, because I wanted to graduate and my GI Bill was about to run out, that summer semester, which was like a quarter, because I wanted to graduate, I took 7 classes, 35 hours. That's a lot of school right there. But you know what? I wanted to graduate. I wanted to graduate because I needed to graduate. Well, I told you I quit my job in March, and I had a Jeep, and I drove to school every day. And there were times that that I would leave the house at 7 in the morning, drive an hour down there with a Jeep Wrangler with duct tape on the window, and come back at 10 o'clock at night. And those were some long times, and I was still working then, and then that was in March. I bought a Cherokee. Had to get a Cherokee because that Jeep tore up like 2 weeks after I quit my job. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I didn't plan right. I thought I had planned right. I thought I had enough money, but I wasn't planning on bad things to happen. You have to plan on bad things, because I can assure you, they're going to happen. Adversity is going to happen. That's part of life right there. But then, like I said, I had too much pride. I had too much pride to go back and get my job at Kroger. So I said, I'm just going to go ahead and graduate. So that's why I took those 35 hours and I graduated. August 3rd, 2001. Didn't know what I wanted to do. A month later was 9/11. And I decided, you know, I'm going to go back into the Army. That's when I applied for OCS. And you military people know, you know the Army the military has a strong history of messing up paperwork. Oh my goodness, did they mess up paperwork. Something I did tell earlier, I'm not ashamed, because it's something that happens to a lot of people. When I was 19, I got arrested for underage drinking. What a lot of people do, I just got caught and I got arrested for underage drinking. Wasn't a big deal. That was before I went to the Army the first time. Well, when I went back and applied for OCS, they had the OCS board at Fort Knox, Kentucky. So they have a stack every month that they go through to look at. Well, if they find any flaws in there, they send it back. Without going through the whole packet, they find one flaw and they send it back. Or they find something that needs to be amended and they send it back. So they found out where I had been arrested for underage drinking. So I had to get a moral waiver from when I got arrested before I joined the Army the first time. Right? You gotta love the Army. That's how they work. Right? So then they send it back up there. All right? If they don't get to you, you know, they just leave your packet in the stack and they'll get to you the next month. They got to me the next month. This time, because I was 29 years old, I had to get an age waiver. So they sent it back again. And they just kept on and on and on. And before you know it, it's a year later. And they kept telling me, they said, we're going to have you gone in 2-3 weeks. You're going to be gone. We're going to ship you out. We're going to ship you out. And finally, see, that was in September when I first signed up. And finally, they had me a date to go back to basic training in July. Because I had been out of the Army for over 3 years. I had to go back through basic training at Fort Benning. Well, I got to the Military Entrance Processing Station, MEPS, in Montgomery, and the guy looked at it and said, oh, we made a mistake. You don't have to go back through basic training because your 3 years aren't up yet, because your time in the IRR count towards your time. I'm like, well, can I go? You know, probably the only guy in the history of the world to ask to go back through basic training again. Because I was in bad shape. The bill collectors were calling. My mama and daddy named me Joseph Wade Fuller, but they called me Jody my entire life. So I knew when I had a phone call and they asked for Joseph, I said, that is not a friend, that is a foe. He ain't here. You got the wrong number. I always wondered why they called me Jody, but it made sense. It took 29 years, but it made sense. But those were some hard times. And finally, I left. I'm not making this up. I left, reported to OCS at Fort Benning, Georgia, September 11th, 2002. Hard times. Who's going to give you a job when you're like, I need a job, but I may have to leave in 2 weeks? You know, and you're not, if it's in 2 weeks, you're not going to get a check until after you leave anyway. You know, so I was in a bad situation. I got to OCS owed all this money because I had to make a choice between paying my light, my water, credit card bills. So I had to keep the lights on, and they still got turned off sometimes. Phone got turned off one time. I went down to Glendine to pay my phone bill because I was 2 months late, and I went there to pay it, and I wrote her a check, and I said, yeah, they turned my phone off, and she looked it up, and she said, no, it's not been turned off yet. They're doing some work. I said, can I have that check back? 8 days later, it cut off. I just added $25 to it and brought it back to it. Changed the date. It was hard times. And I got to OCS, and because all that happened, there was problems with my clearance and all this, just hard times. And prayer got me through everything. It got me through all those hard times. I got to OCS, had all my eggs in this one basket. That was my thing. That was my way out of all these hard times, was to graduate from officer candidate school. And 3 weeks into OCS, I hurt my knee. And it hurt for about 2. It hurt so bad that I would walk and we'd be on a ruck march. I'd be running upstairs, and out of nowhere, I'd just fall to the ground because it would give out. It hurt so bad. It was in bad shape. And finally, we were on a long road march, and I couldn't make it. We didn't have real weapons in OCS. We used these rubber guns we call rubber duckies, and I'm using it as a crutch. And I'm crying. I got tears. The pain, it wasn't necessarily because of the pain. It was because if I didn't make it through OCS, I was going to be put back at the needs of the Army. And I could have been in it. They could have made me a cook or anything. At the needs of the Army. And that's not what I wanted. That's not what I had been through. All the sacrifice, all the hard work that I had made. And I'm crying. And I'm thinking about all this stuff. I'm 30 years old at this point, and I'm crying. And I had to finally, people trying to help me. Teamwork, they're trying to help me. They're encouraging me. But I could not make it anymore. And they put me in the back of the truck. I had to go to sick call. And I knew that if I got a profile, which limits your activity, that I would be recycled. And they gave me a 10-day profile. And sure enough, I was going to be recycled. That night, I'm in my bed, in my bunk, on the top bunk, just knowing I'm going to be recycled. Knowing I have no idea what my future holds. But as I did, and I do every night, I prayed to the greatest leader that's ever lived. And a lot of times when we pray, it's like brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom. It's just you check the block before you go to bed. Just, okay, I did it, This night I prayed like I never prayed in my entire life. I went to bed, my knee was about that big around. Everybody had seen it. It was awful, worst pain I've ever experienced, and it was just detrimental to my career. I prayed that night like I had never prayed in my entire life. I prayed and I connected like I had never prayed in my life. My pillow was soaked with tears like never before in my life. Woke up that next morning, 4:30, lights on, everybody hollering. And I still had to run outside. I had 5 minutes to get outside, all the way around the building. And I jumped off that top bunk, knowing that my leg was going to kill me, knowing it was going to shoot pain all the way up my side, and it was going to be painful. But you know what? I did what I had to do. I had to make it happen, and I jumped down. And when I jumped down, I landed. And I hit that floor like Mary Lou Retton at the '84 Olympics in Los Angeles. And there was no pain. I looked down, there was no swelling. I'm not making this up. There's 100 people in my platoon, in my company, that can vouch for this. It was gone overnight because I connected, I prayed. I connected with my leader that night like never before. And I said, well, my goodness, it's a miracle. And I kept my profile for that day just to make sure everything was okay. And I'm doing this number, I'm dancing, I'm bragging, I'm showing out. And I was good to go that whole day. And I went back to sick call that next morning. And I asked the doctor to rescind my profile. And he did. And I went on to graduate and become an officer in the United States Army. And it's the best thing that happened to me. And I would not be where I am today if I had not connected with the Lord that night, if I had not prayed, if I had not connected. And the final thing that I have to say, just one quick thing that I got, this is when you know things are going right. You don't know how you influence people. Influence. You don't know. You don't know till after the fact. You just being you. Derek, you're a great leader without even trying. Scotty, you're a great leader without even trying. You do what you do because that's who you are. I got this about a year ago from another soldier that is no longer in the military. Had zero reason. He benefited nothing from sending me, and he actually sent a card in the mail. And all it said was, "Sir, I took the advice that you gave me at Fort McCoy in 2007. I went back to school, and it has completely turned my life around. I just wanted to thank you for all the kind words and for always setting a great example." Leadership. You never know how you influence people. But everybody in this room is a leader. And if you don't remember anything else, remember the loyalty, the duty, the respect, the selfless service, the honor, the integrity, and personal courage. And you will be an outstanding leader. And it's an honor to be in this room today with so many great leaders. And I thank you for having me. God bless you all. God bless you all. Thanks, guys.